calling to order the April 28th meeting of the Auburn Select Board. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Select Board is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of open meeting laws to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, dial 408-650-3123 with access code 235-235-861. Or the public can join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join/235-235-861. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is there anyone else also recording? Seeing none, please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have two people. Oh, I'm so sorry. I would like to take a moment of silence in honor of Ron Prouty. Mr. Prouty was a very active community member and he passed recently. Okay, moving on, we have public comment. There are two individuals signed up. Mr. Richards, would you like to come up?
Good evening.
Please give your name and your address, please.
Eric Richards, Auburn, Massachusetts.
Your street address.
Ravine Drive.
Thank you.
So I came tonight to ask to open an agenda item on a meeting at some point in the near future, hopefully maybe the next one, about Eddy Pond and the Camp Gleason project. As a means of context, there was a local discussion on social media about the pond surrounding Camp Gleason and the renovation and its pollution status. So I got a little curious. I did some digging, a little bit of research, and actually, I couldn't find anything that showed the water was polluted by heavy metals or unsafe in any way or whatever, which led me to wonder why the beach wasn't being utilized or as part of this whole project, and that sort of went to the wayside. From that came information about the culvert that connects Eddy Pond and the swamp beyond it being plugged, having been previously dredged by the state, but not having been touched since approximately 2011 or so. And that plugged and disrupting the flow. And from that, as I dug through public record and other information, I found information on the dam being in danger of potential critical failure and on a constant watch list, which in recent discussion anyway, in front of this body, there hasn't been any mention at all surrounding the Camp Gleason project about the beach, the dam, its stability, and how that was going to be handled. So it led to more questions. I did a fairly extensive research dive into it. It's about 90%, 85% done, all based on public record, all based on what I could find. You may have received it late this evening by email. All my sources are documented. All the stuff in the research is in there. There may be inconsistencies simply because of the fact that you all may have access to information that's not public record. A great example, there was an engineering study done in 2023, 2024 timeframe recently before the MEMA-FEMA update to the critical infrastructure plan, and that was not available to the public. It was never made available by the town. So I couldn't read that. There were some comments and minutes that I found. There may be some information there that just wasn't available when I went through my paper. But there's a briefing document, and I think it'll be an interesting read because it gives you some options. There's a potential tie-in to DLS, but it's a pretty extensive issue, and I think it warrants its own separate item.
Thank you. Thank you for providing that information. We will look into it. Thank you. Our second individual for public comment is Daniel Largess. Could you just provide your name and street address?
Daniel Largess, 39 Perry Place. Some time ago, I want to say it was probably last year, the police chief had put out the top 5 most dangerous intersections in town for accidents and traffic. And I'm coming to you to find out, and I spoke with Deputy Chief Mills today, what can be done with Bryn Mawr Ave extension in Leicester Street. I myself have had 3 very close calls, and I'm talking within a foot of T-boning a car, or actually a pickup truck, for running the stop sign at Leicester Street. I know you live in the neighborhood over there. My mother-in-law left church yesterday, stopped at my house, picked something up, and then was headed to Walmart, and she almost got nailed. She jacked on her brakes so hard she blew the brake lines in her car. It's now sitting at my house. Deputy Chief Mills said that they've cut back brush, they've cut back so it's more visible. Is there anything safety-wise the town can do to take care of that intersection? The day that we had the very close call, I was driving my wife's vehicle. If I was driving my pickup truck, it would have been done and over. That other pickup truck would have been in the shape of a U and knocked down the road. It's just for public safety. It's getting ridiculous as far as some of these people driving. And I just wanted to know if anything can be done. He said they don't know what steps. Do we have anybody that can look into that? Maybe the state help us on that. And I've gotten, changing that on, I've gotten a couple phone calls over the last week about sinking sewer cover, drain covers. You got one at Kateri that now has a steel plate on it. You got one at Pearl Street and Rockland Road that has been dig safed for the past 2 years. There's one in front of number 10 Bryn Mawr Ave that's sinking, that's been dig safed for the last 2 years. We need to work on our infrastructure or something. When I worked for the city, I know they were doing those all the time. They would just bang them out. So that's a big problem. Somebody's going to hit one of those things and ba-boom, that's it. We're going to be owing a car. So let's go with something that was just brought to my attention, Mr. Richards. This here is one of the reasons why I put in for that forensics audit. Because in 2001, the state deemed that dam unsafe. I reached out to Mark Mallard, who worked for the DPW, and years ago that they had to replace the gate, and my amount could be wrong, that the town ponied up $400,000 to fix the gate that was stuck in the open position. They had to put steel plates on the Eddy Pond side of Route 20 to block the water to come through so they could repair the gate. The only thing that got repaired back then was the gate. And I believe that's when they found some of the damage to the dam. Well, if I'm not mistaken, the law that was passed, the state will cover the cost of that if it's done in 2025. If it's not done in 2025, we're eating it. And we're going to a 2.5 budget this year for town meeting. We're looking at a $30 million fire station. Do we really want to tack on another dam? This is going to be costing the town taxpayers a lot of money, a lot of money. And I've always said, and I've talked to former town manager, Mr. Kastelovich, and I will not vote for a budget over 2%. I think we need to go back to the drawing boards and find out what's costing what, where, and why, and who, and let's show some work to the taxpayers and say, look, yeah, I know we're going for a 2.5%, and we're also going for this, but I know we need the fire station. I kind of wish it was the fire and police together. Because I don't know when the last time some of you people have walked through the police station, but you got 5 people sharing one office. And the office isn't much bigger than half your size of the office is up here on the second floor. I really wish the town had the money to do them both at the same time. So I just think that we need to jump on this dam and ASAP. As well as the other safety things in the town of Auburn going forward. Sidewalk on Brentmore Ave extension. I haven't seen anything done over there. And at the last meeting, we were talking about, April 15th. We're still over there, nothing's happening. And now we're on 2 years. 2+ years now.
Thank
And
you.
I'll tell you one thing. If someone does get hit, I will be that person's advocate against the town of Auburn in saying that the town's dragging their feet on that.
Thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Largess.
Thank you.
We have no community organizations. We have no presentations or public hearing.
Madam Chair, may I move that we move item 10A forward?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. I'm going to hand this over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm going to hand this over to the retired Mr. Ed Kazanovich for an update on the town manager search.
Thank you, Dory, and through the chair and members of the board. It's a pleasure being here tonight. Nice to see you. To my left is John Petrin. He's the assigned rep for the purposes of vetting out qualified candidates that are scheduled to come before you on May 13th for public interviews. When I had some correspondence, I sent out some correspondence to the board late last week. It has come to my attention since then that there will be 3 candidates, not 4. One individual has removed themselves from consideration. So we have 3 candidates. I don't even know who they are. John has been working with them. Those individuals will be made public to you about 10 days in advance of the public interviews. John's here to answer any questions, but let me just give you a brief update in terms of the process. When the board decided that it wanted to go out to a professional recruitment firm, we entered into a letter of engagement with Community Paradigm Associates, LLC, on January 22nd, 2025. Since then, a position statement has been prepared. The position has been advertised. Paradigm received 16 applications in total, 7 of which were considered Tier 1, worthy of advancing to the next level, but 2 out of those 7 have been hired for other jobs or have removed themselves for consideration. That being said, we have 3 finalists that are going to be provided to you. The interviews are scheduled for the 13th. The 14th, this room has been reserved, not knowing how the 13th is going to go. In the event the board wanted to consider a motion for appointment or a motion to vote that evening, and it may not be ready. There's been some discussions about second interviews. I just don't know how you can make a commitment for second without going through the first. You may decide on the 13th, you may want to have second interviews. So that's an option that the board can consider. Paradigm normally provides an hour for each candidate. Certainly, we can go longer. That's up to the board. You got to emphasize, this is the board's interview. They're going to conduct this process how they want to conduct it. John is here to help. He has interviewed the candidates individually before the board. The board can do the interviews. That's the decision you're going to have to make. Also going to have to determine when you want to start on the 13th. Has some early indication that there are some conflicts that may not allow for a start time before 5:30. So if you do the math, we now have 3 candidates, not 4. So you're talking about a 3-hour process at minimum to conduct those 3 interviews. Also, I sent to the board in confidence a series of questions that was provided to me from John. You may want to consider going with those questions, asking any pertinent questions you may have that relate to that topic, or you may want to suggest some questions that you want to weave into that interview process. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to emphasize, but John is here to add to that or to answer any questions that you may have.
Do board members have any questions? Certainly.
So I did send through Ed some questions that I wanted to have added to the list. And I was just doing some quick math. And I have watched some of the interviews, some of which actually Community Paradigm have done for other communities. And generously, if we keep it to 3 to 5 minutes, which I have yet to see a candidate keep it to 3 to 5 minutes, we have between 9 and 15 questions. So, you know, my biggest question was, do we want to ask all those questions? Do we want to, I definitely would like my questions included. But, you know, in that this is a public process and we want to keep those embargoed, how do we as a board decide to what questions we want to ask to winnow down that list if we even want to do that? The other thing, I did see Mr. Crane had responded about the second meeting and about public comment, which I'm certainly not averse to, but I think seeing a candidate for 1 hour isn't going to give the public a great feel for these candidates. So I was going to suggest to the board that we try to arrange some sort of reception for the public to come, invite the applicants, and have the public get a chance to meet these individuals, and then at a next meeting or so, I think it would be more appropriate for us to have public comment, if there is any public comment, on one or all of the candidates. So those were just some ideas that I had, and then of course that question about how do we decide on the final list without letting it out into the public.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
So I have a couple. So I'm the person with the conflict in terms of the starting time. Looking at my work schedule again, on the 13th, I can make it earlier. The 14th, I cannot. So if we were to meet on the 14th again for a discussion and potential vote at that time, I would ask that we stick to our normal start time. Earliest I'd be able to get here would be 5:30. In terms of the, asking the questions, I think it's important that the board set the tone that we are the ones asking the questions, seeing as though we are the ones doing the hiring. I think that's appropriate, that we have that initial interaction with the candidates. So it might be my preference that we ask the questions. In terms of the questions, I have not gone through them all completely. However, I know for a fact that there's some questions that I'd like to ask that are not on that list, and I have the same question and concerns as Mr. Carpenter does in terms of how do we ask add our questions? How do we ensure that our questions are the ones getting asked, especially since these questions are embargoed and we can't discuss them publicly before that time? So that's the, that's one of the concerns. The other is that I did have a request that, and I think it's important that I like the idea of a reception for the public, or even if we don't want to open it up to the entire public, but at least open it up to members of various boards and commissions that do a lot of work, that will be interacting with the town manager. I think the public would be, the best way to go, but if we can't do that, then I'd like to at least open it up to members of the boards and commissions to meet those candidates, because I think it's important for us to get the feedback from those members of the community who are interested in, the candidates that come forward. I understand we can only get it 10 days in advance, but what I'd like to see is that once we get it, that once those names are released publicly, that they are put on our website with their resumes, whatever information they had submitted that will come to us, which is public record, should also be there as well. And that's another way for the public to do research or go down rabbit holes and get an understanding of who the candidates are. And then that way they can provide public comment to us if we're not able to do a reception. But I think it's important that we at least provide that opportunity, because this, in my mind, will probably be the single most important vote that this board is taking, because this person will set the tone for how the town moves forward in conjunction with the board for the next decade.
So I do think it's important that we ask our questions. I think I like to have more of a conversation. So I think when we have the first question, it might answer a couple of the other questions we might have had or touch base on that. So hopefully that will eliminate the need to remove entire questions, but at least we get those answers. I do have a question with 16 candidates, 7 qualified. I just want to make sure or understand what that process was for vetting and what you were looking for as far as the candidates. I know we all provided input, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows that it wasn't just 16 candidates, we picked 7. Like, you actually had a vetting process through that. Can you explain?
Sure. John Petrin, Community Paradigm. Thank you for having me here tonight. So from the vetting process, we did it as an internal team. Bernie Lynch is the principal of our firm, and Bernie is a retired manager, 35 years, Lowell and Chelmsford. I'm a retired manager. I was 40 years in municipal government and retired out of the town of Burlington, was 35 years as a manager in a couple of communities. We also have a couple of other members of our team, communications people. So Sharon Flaherty. So we worked as a team to review these candidates and to understand their background. We know many of these people just in general, from our backgrounds, Bernie and myself having been managers. And also we do a lot of recruiting, in the state. So, we've talked to these candidates in the past. So we've worked with these candidates to bring it down to, have the 3 best candidates. Again, we had additional candidates, but we've had withdrawals, which occurs in processes of this nature. So we did talk to candidates. We've reviewed their background. So what we're finishing this week is reference and background checks, and you'll get that on candidates so that you get to see that information going forward. So that report, I'm suggesting by Monday. It may be sooner than that, but we're finishing that up now, and so you'll get that from us. As to some of the other points, we'll work with, I'm here to facilitate, with you. So the process is not my process. This is the board's process. So we're here to work with you as to how to move forward and make suggestions, on some of these things. One possibility on the questions is maybe you set a subcommittee of the board for 2 of you to review the questions. The questions I provided to you were basically a suggested start. It's not the finish. So I've seen some, one set of questions and, some very good questions in there. But again, you basically have an hour, to interview. And I'll tell you, these, These interviews, an hour is usually a good amount of time. If you've seen these interviews in other places, it's usually, you've got the sense of the, of the candidate, going forward. But, picking the right questions and having it as to whether you ask the questions, whether, you have me ask the questions, that's your decision. And it's half and half. Some communities, they have, us ask the questions. Some communities, it's the board members ask them. So when the board does it, I suggest you stick to asking the question, because if you spend time, trying to give, input, as to, you're losing time because you want to hear the candidates talk to you, on things. That's my only suggestion on that. But we'll work with you. If you're looking for, a process on, talking with candidates in a different format, some sort of meet and greet, that can be done. But again, how you do that, we're running up against time here. What you could potentially do, we just did it in another community where the candidates met with the department heads an hour prior to, coming into the select board interview. So they got to meet with the department heads. We did these on a Thursday night. They got to meet with the department heads 1 hour prior to. They spent 45, 50 minutes with department heads. Then they came into the select board for an interview. If you're going to do something with the public, it needs to be a meet and greet only. This isn't an interview, situation. We got to be careful with the candidates as well. But a meet and greet, can be done if that's what you want to do. But again, how do we get this all, built into the schedule? How long are you willing to wait, have candidates wait? Because the longer you have candidates publicly waiting from the time you interview to the time you have a decision, can weigh on whether candidates stay in the process or not. So those are all points. I'm here to work with you, on any of these points. But again, on this questions, maybe I don't want to pick the questions. I've given you, an overview, but maybe two of you from the board, and we just did that in another community, can decide what's the list of questions. You can get through about 15 questions, going through. Some are a little shorter than others, but I always try to tell candidates coming in, you have you're going to have, basically 1 hour. Make sure, you're giving your information, tell your story, but don't go on and on, in one area. You need to realize you're interviewing here, and you got to make your point in that amount of time.
Thank you. I really like the idea of a subcommittee to set the questions. Would board members be interested in a subcommittee?
I would volunteer.
That would be great. Can I get it in the form of a motion?
Make a motion that Dan and Steve become the subcommittee to formulate the questions for our town manager.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The
I'm going to
chair-
abstain.
Okay, the chair is a yes as well.
So before we move, but Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking, we already have the 14th set aside, and as you say, time is of the essence. But why don't we, if the board is amenable to have a meet and greet, why don't we plan it for that evening? That way we can actually publicize it to the public. We can get some notifications out internally to our board members, and that way you can talk to the applicants to make sure that, A, they're available, and so that would be
I'm
on the
sorry, I
14th.
missed the beginning. What?
Sure. On the 14th, we have a meeting scheduled. So
Okay.
the interviews are the 13th. We already have a meeting for the 14th. We could just do the meet and greet that night, invite the public. That would give us plenty of time to advertise it, get it out to the public. And I'm glad that you touched on the department heads, because that was a question that I forgot to ask. I would certainly say that I would agree that I would like that to be set up, and if it makes sense to do it then, or if they have it, another time that is convenient, that would be great if the board is amenable, because I do think we want them to feel comfortable with whomever we choose. But understandably, we also are the only ones who can make the decision. So they have to trust us as we have had to trust them to make the decision for the town.
So can I just suggest, if we're going to be doing the department heads, being respectful of the candidates' time, because they are, I'm assuming, all working for other municipalities, in respect, those other municipalities as well as their time, it might make sense, since they're coming here for the 13th for interviews, that we do the department head meeting in advance of the 13th, so they can meet, then do the interview, and then do the public meet and greet on the 14th. That way, we're not taking up an entire day of their time.
No, I wasn't saying the 14th. I was just saying at some point ahead of the interview. So I'm not even tied to, the staff is here Monday through Friday and sometimes more than that. So obviously, if they're willing to do that ahead of time, then, that's entirely up to them. I'll leave that up to, Mr. Kazanovich to arrange that, and obviously yourself to arrange that, and make sure the department heads are available.
So are you proposing perhaps a department head meeting on the 13th at 5:30 and then are giving them an hour?
I would just
Starting our
say,
meeting at a regularly,
I would say, and again, it's going to be up to these applicants. How much time do they have? Do they want to be running to Auburn, 14 times in a given week, or over a certain?
Well,
couple of
this makes it twice.
right?
So I'm just saying, if it works for them to come individually beforehand, I don't want to set a particular time. If it's, I will certainly make a motion that any time that we can arrange for them to meet with the department heads is fine by me. If it happens to be
Day of our meeting or,
the time before the 13th, then that's fine. We just want to make sure that the department heads, or as many of them, are here. And obviously, not just the department heads, that invitation should go out to the deputies. We have, supervisors and whatnot, who could be future leaders of their department. So I don't just want it to be department heads sitting down. But again, understanding that, I appreciate their opinion, but the decision is the board's to make. But we do want feedback both from the public and from the people that we trust to run the day-to-day. So that's my motion.
So can I make a motion that on May 13th, we invite the candidates, if they are able, at 5 o'clock to come meet with department heads or other town employees for an hour or something, and then at 6:30 have the interviews?
Can I just, I'll second that for discussion, but can I recommend that we start it at 6 PM the latest? Only because if we're talking an hour per candidate and we're now at 3 candidates, that's 9 o'clock. That assumes one is leaving as one's walking in. There's going to be time in between, so.
I amend the motion to 5 o'clock, meeting with those department heads and others who are able to come, and then 6 o'clock for the interviews. And again, that's if the department heads are available on the, or if the candidates are available a little early on May 13th.
If I may, Madam Chair,
course.
can I get a clarification? Are we going to do interviews at 6, 7, and 8? Is that what we're looking at this
that
point?
is what we're looking at
Okay,
6, 7.
6, 7, 8, then I suggest that the interviews of department heads be at 5, 6, and 7, because you're going to have one candidate at a time.
That's an excellent point.
Oh, all right.
That
So I'm
keeps
not
them
going to
busy
bring
from
in 3
watching.
candidates
Right.
together
Right.
to sit with
Yep.
department heads. That's
Sure.
And Madam Chair, if I may, actually, well, I'll second Vice Chair Kavanaugh's motion, and then I'll come back to my other point after the vote.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to have a department head meeting with the candidates prior to our interview.
Just to be clear, it's not just the department heads. It's department heads,
certainly.
supervisors, again, we have individuals who are in leadership positions that are not division heads, who may be future leaders of their departments. And I want to capture their opinion just as much as I want to capture the department head's opinion.
We amend the motion to be municipal employees to meet
And
with
the
the
motion to
candidates.
read municipal employees. Are we going to do what Mr. Petron suggested and do a 5, 6, 7, 8? And so those.
5, 6, 7, yeah.
5,
Yeah,
6,
I like
7?
that.
All right.
So I don't mean to make this more difficult, but I would not support all municipal employees.
Right.
I think you should say municipal employees in management positions. That covers your supervisors, your deputy directors, your commissioners, et cetera.
Just to make it very clear what we are voting on, get a new motion.
All right, I make a motion that on May 13th, the candidates will come in to meet with, individually meet with the municipal employees in management positions, and also come for the interview with the Board of Selectmen. And those would happen at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 7 o'clock, so that a candidate might meet with, have an interview with the Board of Selectmen before they meet with department heads, et cetera.
No, I think they're
It's
going to be,
after.
yeah, the department head, they're going to be meeting 5, 6, 7.
Oh, all right.
Interviewing 6, 7, 8.
All right.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well.
All right, Mr. Kazanovich, are you going to be there to oversee these 5, 6, and 7s? Because Mr. Petrin might be a little busy with us.
I'd be happy to participate in any way that helps out the board, so.
I appreciate that. That would be very helpful.
So my other question that was posed in the communication from Mr. Kazanovich was whether we wanted to broadcast this interview live or videotape it and post it immediately afterwards, et cetera. My viewpoint, seeing as though they are going, and the downside of doing it live was that the candidates who were coming later had the potential where they would watch the candidates who are coming earlier. Now that we've booked their time with the department heads, they lose that opportunity. So I would like the interviews to be recorded and broadcast live like our normal meetings.
We're only occupying 2 people at a time, and there's 3. So I would prefer that they would be taped and
Broadcast
uploaded
later.
and broadcasted like later. Start them an hour later if that's, if that's a possibility.
If that's the case, if we're going to tape and not broadcast live, I would ask that they are posted the minute our meeting ends. It's posted to Facebook and YouTube so that at that point, the residents can watch it.
Is that a possibility?
I can make the link so that it's unlisted, and then immediately following the meeting, listed. So do you want us to broadcast live over cable? Because it's very doubtful that any of those candidates have cable, Auburn cable.
I think it's fine to if we're going to go one way or the other, I think it's fine, in my opinion, just to videotape it and then post it afterwards, not try to do both. My concern is we've committed to having a transparent process as possible, and I just want to make sure we're living up to that.
I know in previous candidates, we've broadcast live and streamed and recorded for later playback, and there was never a problem.
Thank you.
If I may,
Yes,
Madam Chair,
absolutely.
I'm not sure there's any impact either way. So, I understand, trying to get the information out, as soon as possible. Most of the communities I work with do it live. And, some have that concern. If it's 2 different nights, if we had broken up the candidates, I have a little more concern with that. But as a past candidate, I've been in a few interviews myself. There's no way I would even want to, we go into these things cold. That's the best way for us to do it. As candidates, I can tell you that as having been a candidate. So I think if, you're trying to get that information out there, doing it live streaming, the candidates are going to be traveling, coming here, they'll be tied up. And if I was doing it, and even if I had the 2-hour time frame, if you started with candidate at 6 and I'm at 8, there's no, it's going to screw up my head, trying to watch, what was being said and asked. These questions are standard, across, so they should have all this, figured out as to what the questions are. We do this, they interview all the time. They're interviewing people. They understand this. So I'm fine with, the board just moving forward and doing live, just an opinion.
That's my preference.
That's
if we
perfect
can do
then.
that.
Then I'm
Perfect.
fine with
Thank you.
that as well. Thank you. For day 2 on the 14th, how do we envision that moving forward? I know you had mentioned a meet and greet with the public. I know, Mr. Crane, you have a conflict. So if we did a meet and greet at 5:30,
My suggestion with a meet and greet, this doesn't happen often, but I think with a meet and greet, if you're going to do that, put the candidates in 3 separate rooms, if you're going to, I don't know if you're going to hold it here or, someplace else. Put the candidates in 3 separate rooms, have the meet and greet for, an hour, hour and a half, and people can just come in and, roam through and talk to the candidates. This is not an interview process. This is simply come in, hi, how are you? Let's talk about some things. We've only done this a couple of times, but that would be my suggestion, is just have 3 separate rooms and people can come in and speak to who they wish to speak to.
thank you. Is that what we're looking for? And just using a 6:30 as our regular meeting time to discuss as needed?
Meet and greet, it doesn't necessarily have to be within the meeting. I was just using that as a particular
No.
time. And it doesn't matter if Mr. Crane is here or not, if it's for the meet and greet part. He's already interviewed and he has more access to the candidates than the public has. So between now and the 13th, I'm sure he will have already scared all 3 of them away. So I would just say, let's start at 5:30 out of deference to, the individuals. We've already had them come. If they're working during the day, it'd be nice if they could, make the meet and greet between 5 and maybe 6:37. Give it an hour and a half for people to wander through. And then we can have our meeting. We can decide if we want second interviews or if we're ready to make a vote. That would be my preference, but.
Just as a note, with all of this interaction with candidates, first of all, we've never done second interviews. I've not seen a town do a second set of interviews. I'm just going to put that on the table. It's usually not needed and it's never been requested. And so now, with all this time for the candidates, this should suffice, with what you're doing. It's more than the norm. Let me just put it that way. So, I suggest you work towards trying to get your conclusion, on the second night, the 14th. And, get everything finished on the 14th, for you to make your decision. That's my observation.
Yeah. My reason for the second interview is, again, we're doing one, okay? We actually have only hired one town manager in a process like this. There is not any person on this board who has gone through that process. So to me, if I'm going to put somebody in a seat that's going to manage a budget that's $86 million today, tomorrow it's going to be 90, then it's going to be more, I'm not going to just sit there and say, okay, one interview. Because, and I'm not saying I need a second interview. I just want it to be perfectly clear. I'm not necessarily going to say, based on 1 hour with somebody, that I'm going to turn the keys over with the power that the town manager has, and then how bad it can go if we don't pick the right person. So that's why to say, I would like to hold that. It may not be necessary, but again, I think that any applicant for a position of this size should expect that a board is going to want to take the time to get to know this person. We may not do a second interview. We may want to sit down and talk with them one-on-one. We may want to do any number of things. So I get that, processes are what they are, and that might frighten people, but this is a consequential position, and it's going to launch this town into the 21st century. And hopefully, if we name this person, they're going to be here for 6 to 7 years, maybe longer. So I know what I didn't like when I came on the board with the 2 people who precedes this person. So I'm going to be very damn careful about who I vote for this position. So that's why I'm very concerned about not forestalling or closing out a second interview.
So I make a motion that on the second night of this process, on May 14th at 5:30, we have a meet and greet using 3 separate rooms, exact location to be determined for the candidates. And then our regular meeting would be scheduled for 6:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Great, thank you very much.
If
I
I,
can just, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
if I may, so I know we're talking about time crunch and we're going to work through questions, but is there typically follow-up for each question, or does follow-up happen at the end? I just want to make sure, again, being cognizant of the time, if we all jump in, we're not going to get through the questions. So
Right.
is there typically a note-taking through the interview and then, leave 15 minutes for follow-up questions?
My suggestion is, if you have a follow-up, do it at the time, that it's being posed. And again, the more, follow-ups you do, the less time you have for, the questions in there. But get it done, because waiting till the end, then the candidates lost the frame of mind maybe, that the follow-up may have, if it's a true follow-up. And so that's why it's critical for you to make sure you're going to ask, the questions you have, on the table. But if it's a true follow-up, ask it right there, would be my suggestion.
I would just
Carpenter.
make a motion that we ask Mr. Kasanovich to oversee with the staff in the Merriam Building how to advertise this, make sure that we get this out to all the boards and committees, and that you oversee the publication so that the public will know what's going on every available media that we can get out there, including the fun sign out there that says fun things occasionally, like congratulations on your retirement and things like that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Are
I
there
just-
any other questions or comments?
I just want to make one more point
Sure.
as to why I'm probably speaking a little too strongly. We do know what's going on at the federal level, or we don't particularly know what's going on at the federal level with funding. So that's also why I'm very certain that I want to be very comfortable, because the person who's going to sit in that chair for the next couple of years is probably going to be going through something that I wouldn't want to have to go through on a day-to-day basis and try and figure that out. So I think that's another reason why I feel like we're not in normal times, and we need to, and we can't continue to act like the behaviors that we're seeing at certain levels of government, that those are normal, or that we can expect the level of support that we've enjoyed, whether at the state level or at the town level. And, I just want to make sure that we're getting the person who's going to be able to migrate a very difficult and help our department heads migrate through that.
Any additional questions, comments? No. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. You do have my contact information if anything comes up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We are moving back to number 7, departmental items. We have DDIS.
Before we move to that, Madam Chair, can I make a motion that we move up departmental item 7D, School Department, U.S. Department of Education, Title VI press release?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Okay.
I'm hoping the information you received in your packet that I shared with Town Manager Vecchio regarding some recent communications from the United States Department of Education. The first item that I sent over was a press release from the United States Department of Education, which kind of advertised the steps they were going to take related to Title VI certification, which relates to any kind of discrimination based on race, origin, those kind of things. So that's the first item that said that they were going to be asking states to certify that they were indeed in compliance with Title VI. The next step that was taken by the United States Department of Education was a request for states to sign a reminder of legal obligations under this title, saying that we were indeed in compliance with this. I will tell you, there was a great deal of confusion across the state because at first they sent it out that each school district, each LEA was going to have to sign this. They realized then it was a request by each state to do so. And so the state of Massachusetts did put together a response to this request. They did not sign the document that was sent, but you'll see in your packet, there is a letter from Interim Commissioner Tutwiler, which basically states that whenever we get federal funding, we have to attest that we are not going to discriminate with how that gets used. And that's, Massachusetts wasn't the only state that responded in this same manner. However, the repercussions of this are in that the initial communication was that we could potentially lose our federal funding if we didn't sign the form that was sent. So we didn't sign the form that was sent. The deadline for that was April 24th. I've not had any communication other than what I've shared with you here today. But I did share this with the school committee at one of our last meetings and thought it was just important for you to know that this had transpired, that we don't have any indication on what next steps may be. But I know when we last did, and that may have been before finance, we do receive about $980,000 through the federal grants. So that's either through our Title I, Title II, Title III, or Title IV, and our grants for special education. So special education takes up the vast majority of that. I want to say about $625,000 of that, and then the rest are the Title I grants that we receive. So if that money were jeopardized, that would have a devastating impact on our budget, with being close to $1 million. What I hope is that this is much ado about nothing, and that we may not have another word about it. We are having conversations at our leadership level that if we had to do something related to that, what would we do? The answers aren't good, any way you look at it, if that's what it comes to, right? There are so many ifs in all of this. But in speaking with Town Manager Vecchio, she also felt it was important for you all to be aware that this had happened. So I don't know if I have any answers, but if you have any questions, I would be happy to entertain them to the degree that I can.
Board members have any questions?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I guess my question is, what is holding school department, not just our school department, but I have seen, things from DESE and whatnot about this. What is causing this hesitation to sign this certification?
The certification doesn't just address Title VI. So Title VI is, federal law. It's been around for a long, long time, since like 1962. And it really just relates to if you get federal funding, you can't discriminate. What's added into this form to be signed was related to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, which quite frankly serve all kids. When we talk about DEI, we're not talking about a certain race or a certain category of kids. It's talking about serving all kids. And so I think that's where the hesitation came. The money that we receive, we use, for instance, in Title I for our low-income students for remedial services, right? That touches all kinds of kids. But there are many districts that use some of this federal funding for very specifically related positions related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and I think this is what that's getting at. But either way you slice it, it's about serving all kids with whatever they need. So that's the hesitation.
Okay, thank you.
Board members have any additional questions? Thank you so much for letting us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All good news.
All right, Madam Chair, can I make a motion that we move item 9E forward? To be the board vote on a drain layer application from Anderson Construction and Excavation.
I believe-
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. I believe the gentleman is here. Would you like to come up?
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions as it relates to the application or the license?
No. And may I, you've already met, I believe, with the DPW, correct?
The subcontractor.
Yep. Okay.
Great. Is,
Now we just have to pay our fees and, I think we're actually down on Wednesday, it sounds like.
Oh, good.
That's waiting on confirmation of the police detail and supposed to get that one week ago.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the license, the drain layer license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
All right, we are moving back to 7D, DBIS. In our packets, we just have the residential household hazardous waste disposal program. Do board members have any questions? Okay, so 7B, we are on the DPW. Board vote on intermunicipal agreement for participating in the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition through fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2030.
Didn't we already make a motion on this at a previous meeting?
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion that we vote to participate in the intermunicipal agreement, IMA, for participation in the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, FY 2026 through FY 2030.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. We are on 7C, DPW, a board vote on approval of requesting additional funds from Mass DOT for the complete street projects at Goddard Park. Do board members have any questions?
I have a couple questions about this.
Sure.
Through the chair. It appears we're using the money for an ongoing project at Goddard Park. Was the project not already covered through other funding sources?
Good evening. Excuse me. Sorry. So the project was covered by other funding sources, but any money, the other funding sources are also going to be covering the addition to the library. So any money that we can take back, the town meeting money that was allocated for this project would be going towards the library addition.
Okay. The other question I have, did we look at any other projects as potential candidates from our Complete Streets Prioritization Plan? If not for this funding round, are we advancing any of those projects that were identified in that prioritization plan?
Sorry. So we,
DPW director, a minute to get a glass
Absolutely.
of water or something, just so that we can.
I'm sorry, my whole family's a little under the weather and vacation week. So this was basically, we had, one of our staff was in a meeting with Mass DOT staff, and we became aware that the threshold for the grant had risen. So we can apply to increase those funds. It wouldn't preclude us from going after an additional project.
So we are advancing or looking to advance other projects that have been
Yeah, we're always
advertised
looking,
in that? Okay, thank
we're
you.
always looking for that.
Are there any additional questions?
All right. Madam Chair, I vote that we approve the DPW request to ask for additional funds from Mass DOT for complete street projects at Goddard Park in the amount of $100,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Thank you so much. We are on number 8, communications. There are none. We're in number 9, select board general items. We have no proclamations or recognitions. There's a gift acceptance in our package.
Madam Chair, I vote that we accept with gratitude the $25 donation in honor of Beth Prouty to the Animal Compound. This donation is given by Vinnie and Jackie Walsh.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. Last week, we had Fiesta shows here, and we did not take a vote on the outdoor entertainment license, so that is what is before us right now.
Okay, Madam Chair, I vote that we approve the Carnival Amusement Park outdoor entertainment license for the 2 dates, May 8th to 11th and June 12th to 15th with each, okay, and first that we vote on the approval of the license for the May 8 to 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Carnival Amusement Park license for the Fiesta shows for the date June 12th through 15th.
I just want to clarify that it is the outdoor entertainment license that we are specifically voting on.
Yes.
No, I just want that in the,
Oh, gotcha,
in the
sorry.
motion.
That's what I
Sure.
said, didn't I? Outdoor-
No, you had said the Carnival Amusement Park license.
Oh,
which
the
we
Carnival
voted on last
Amusement
time.
Park, a Fiesta shows, and this would be a license for the outdoor entertainment license, approval for the outdoor entertainment license for
Second.
June 12th to 15th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. Moving along, we have a board vote on a gas registration change.
Motion to make the amendment based on the email from the town clerk.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. So we did the drain layers application. We are on a board vote for the annual secondhand junk license renewals for GameStop, Hanoush Jewelers, and Tom's Collectibles.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we approve the secondhand junk 2025 licenses for the three locations, GameStop, George Hanoush Jewelers, and Tom's Collectibles.
Second, for discussion purposes. I just wanted to ask, have we verified that there were no issues with these licenses? I know there have been with certain secondhand junk. I'm not saying it was any of these three in the past, but we usually get something in our packet saying there are no issues. So,
Excuse me, through the chair, yes, they've all been vetted and there are no problems.
okay, thank you.
So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. I am going to turn it over to town manager for 10B.
We forgot G.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, so sorry about that. We are on 9G, potential vote on the May 27th board meeting. Memorial Day is May 26th, the Monday, so typically we meet on the Tuesday after. Would board members be available for a meeting that day?
Yes.
Yes, as of right now, yes.
We have to meet within 7 days of the election to reorganize, per the
Okay.
charter. So as long as a majority of us can show up, we should be good.
Okay, it sounds like that is possible. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we schedule our meeting, our second meeting in May to be May 27th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. I will now turn it over to town manager for 10B.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would like to, this has actually been posted throughout town in different venues, but I wanted to bring it to the board so that anyone watches the meeting will know that there is a pre-town meeting for town meeting members on April 29th at 6 PM, so that's tomorrow. And it's going to be right here in this room. It will be, I believe it'll be televised. Yep, it'll be televised, so if town meeting members can't make it, they can watch it. But I do encourage as many people to attend as they can. We will have department heads available, including myself, and anyone who has a warrant article is also invited to answer questions if anyone has any. So we're hoping that we have a lot of town meeting members attend.
Do board members have any questions? Great. All right, we will move it to 10C.
Through the chair, we are also, in an effort to educate the public more about Camp Gleason, we have had a concerted effort in trying to get additional information about Camp Gleason out on our social media pages. And in doing so, I had spoken to Joanna Paquin, and we had decided to do another walkthrough. So there's going to be a walkthrough for town meeting members or the public, whoever wants to go, on April 29th. It's again tomorrow from 5 to 6, and it will allow anyone who has any interest in what the building looks like. I know this board has already attended, and I know we've already had some committee members attend, but it just gives another opportunity for other board members or residents to go down and take a look at the building, and perhaps even, like it was discussed tonight, the water over there, and just see the grounds. We did recently remove a tank from the site, and that was actually very positive. We didn't have any leakage of the tank, so we didn't have any remediation requirements through DEP. So we continue to move forward. It has moved forward even since this board was there. So that's tomorrow from 5 to 6.
Do board members have any questions?
I do. Well, it's more of a comment. So our agenda says May 6th, 2025 from 5 to 6. Will someone be available at that time, as the flyer says it's the 29th?
I think it's a typo in our agenda.
It is a typo in the agenda.
Everything I've seen advertised to
It's the
date has
20 yeah.
been the April 29th.
Okay.
This is I was going to ask if it had moved to the 6th.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Okay, so we have no table items. We do have one member item, a discussion on remote participation for all boards and committees. And I will turn that over to you, Mr. Crane.
Thank you. So I just wanted to raise this issue with the board. Recently, the state legislature and the governor signed an extension of the remote participation law, extending it from 2025 to 2027. In doing so, they struck the language that the reasons for this law was related to COVID-19 and the COVID-19 pandemic. And most of the language during the discussions and the debate and the signing by the governor had to deal with an increase in participation, transparency, et cetera. I know that I believe this board at the time had issued an opinion or an advisory to various boards and commissions that are either appointed by us or appointed by the town manager, voicing the select board's preference with respect to remote participation or just recording and posting of the meeting, et cetera. And given that this is now extended to 2027, given that the reasons for the extension have changed away from COVID-19, and given the fact that several boards and commissions lately have had topics on their agenda discussing this very issue and wondering whether they should continue with remote participation, whether they should continue with videoing and having it live broadcast by CTV. I did not know if the board thought it might be appropriate at a later time, obviously not tonight, for us to discuss and issue an updated opinion with respect to our viewpoint on remote participation versus recording versus neither. and the importance of doing so. In my own personal opinion, remote participation is important. I think it's added a lot more participation by the public. It's given more people the opportunity to attend our meetings, to follow our meetings. It's allowed department heads who cannot be here in public to come before us via not Zoom, but whatever we are using. And I know that's been the case for other boards as well. So I thought, I just wanted to get sort of a discussion going on the board level on whether we thought we should be updating sort of our opinion based on this new extension.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions?
I do. Was there any discussion around the technology aspects of the remote participation? As I know some of the other boards have deemed the technology as part of the problem, the issue with that. I'm a big fan of the participation myself, but has there been any guidance or leeway in that because having that has held up meetings or caused them to redo meetings? Has there been any guidance on that?
From the state level, no. There was no guidance. They do not prescribe the type of technology you have to employ for remote participation. Different communities use different platforms to do so. I do know that some of the focus on two of the committees have been technology-based, one with respect to the difficulty of using the technology, the other with respect to the delay of the person who's attending remotely and their ability to fully participate or interject their opinion. And third board also in the difficulty of using the technology. But I think that's certainly something that if we do put this as a discussion point on a further agenda, that we can explore the technology that the town uses. Are there other platforms that may be more appropriate? And explore that with town administration.
Perhaps we can write up a guide, a user guide for the people in charge of the meetings or running the meetings to help them with any questions they might have on how to use the technology.
Well, I also think there needs to be an exception. If technology doesn't work, obviously there needs to be a workaround. So that means we may not be able to have remote participation. That is something that we need to contemplate in any kind of guidance that we want to give. And I would suggest that any guidance we give should be also with the town manager on that email or however we decide to send that out, just so that it's clear it's coming from the executive leadership of the community as one body. But that's the only thing that I worry about. The only other thing is I would want committee members, unless there's illness or there's some underlying reason, presenters should be in the room, because if that doesn't work, then, you got to kick the can down the road for two more weeks, or in some boards' cases, a month. So, I think we really do need to spend a lot of time thinking about all the ins and outs of it, and obviously rely on town staff and town council to guide us through, not a straightforward answer. And
I do have a question for the town manager. How many boards are not doing hybrid meetings? Do we know offhand? I mean, could we just get the information?
I can get that information for you. I do know that one of the concerns in the past was that if we state its remote participation is available on the agenda, if we don't have it due to a technological reason, we have to cancel the meeting. So that's a big deal, especially for all the people that come and prepare for the meetings and anticipate to participate. So I will get back to you on the number that actually use remote participation.
Thank you.
If I can also, so I know in the past we've asked for legal counsel on that. I'm just wondering if we can put on the agendas, or if it's even legal to say remote participation is allowed but not always available. So like plan accordingly. Again, like I don't know how to do that. I want the transparency, but I also don't want to stop the progress. So that's why I was asking about the state level. Have they had discussions about that? Because I don't want to open us up to canceling meetings. And as Mr. Carpenter said, if you're going to present, you should be here. I think that's good etiquette anyway. But if you're a resident and want to join and might have a question, know that your question may or may not be heard due to technology. And then if you're a member and technology drops out, if there's not a quorum, they wait for you anyway, or they'll have to move on. But there's a lot of ins and outs to it. I would love to see remote participation across. I think it opens up the equity aspect for everything. I just know that every time I've been in favor of it, I've heard pushback. I just want to make sure that we can do it respectfully and legally.
So to the town manager, can we look into how many boards aren't doing remote participation? And if there is a mechanism for us to allow meetings to continue, even if they were advertised as possibly remote.
Through the chair, yes, I will.
Do board members, go ahead.
I would just make a request. We're going to be pretty busy for the next couple of meetings. Can we put this till the first meeting in June, revisit it, the first meeting in June?
Yeah, this is not a pressing. I wanted to raise it now before we get into our really busy time. And then this is going to be something that is done after town meeting, after the interviews, after the appointments. I just wanted to bring it up now, knowing that there are discussions going on at other committees, so that perhaps when there are questions asked, it can be that the select board is going to be discussing this issue and we'll get back to you with their opinion.
Sure, that sounds great. Are there any other questions or comments?
We were talking earlier about questions. And again, I think with the subcommittee to get the right questions asked and answered, but I also don't know the process about other board members getting questions to the subcommittee.
For a town manager interviews.
Correct. So does that need to go through the chair and then funnel through? Does it need to go through Mr. Kastanovich and funnel through? I don't want to break any laws, but I want to allow for communication and questions to be presented so we can have a discussion on the subcommittee.
I would say probably the cleanest, neatest thing would be to have it sent through Caitlin, if the town manager doesn't mind, and then she can just ping pong it to us.
Does that work?
Yes, no problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. We have our second public comment. Mr. Largess has signed up. Could you just give us your name and your address, please?
Danny Largess, 39 Perry Place. I had a question regarding the interview for the town manager. And again, just thinking, wouldn't you want to put the meet and greet ahead of the interview so you can see how these candidates interact with the public? It was just kind of, you could base, it might be a base for decision-making. And I want to apologize if I threw too much at you on my first citizen's comment. I didn't want to take the whole meeting for ranting and raving.
No. That is a good point. It's something we can certainly look into.
I just thought, that's why I had raised my hand when you were speaking about it. Just thought it might help you guys make a decision, board.
So one of the reasons why I would say that we should interview first is so that the residents can hear the questions that we're asking, and we have time to process. We might even, believe it or not, we might even want to watch the meeting again. It's so thrilling because, when you're in the process, you miss a lot. So it's good that we'll have it taped and available almost immediately to us so that we can do that, but also the public can do that. So I think the meet and greet is appropriately the next day so that people have a chance to process it, actually view the meeting, and, you know, they'll have already been introduced to these individuals. There'll be a known quantity versus, hey, my name's John, my name's Sue. You know, thanks for coming by. You know, you're not basing anything on it.
So will the board be there for the meet and greet?
I will.
I plan to attend.
Mr. Chambers, Mr. Crane?
I can't because I'll be at my work meeting. That's why
Okay.
we're having it that time.
Like all town events, I plan to be there if I can. I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I'm not going to commit to that. But
I can wait if you want to grab the calendar.
I will say I will do my best to be there at every event, as this is critical to the town and the decision-making process. But there are many steps into this, so if someone is not through every step of it, it's not that they haven't put the time or effort into it. So I will be there if I can be there.
I just want to thank all you board members for giving the gas for this. I know it's hard on you all, and I just hope you guys do a good job, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. In our packet, we have meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or changes?
Can I beg forgiveness? I didn't get a chance to read them again. Can I?
Hold them? Would you like us to
Please.
hold them for the next meeting?
And I will do it this time. I apologize.
Certainly.
It's 13 pages, so.
It is extensive minutes this session. So we can hold those meeting minutes, absolutely. We would just need a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. We are adjourned.